Welcome to the History and Heritage podcast with me, Liam Blake. Join me as we uncover hidden stories and insights that shaped our world. From mysteries to legacies, join us on this journey through time. Hello and welcome to our podcast series on the Russian Revolution. In our previous episode, we explored the pre-revolutionary landscape of Russia, highlighting how World War I acted as a catalyst that exposed the regime's incompetence and became a tipping point for the revolution. Today we'll delve into the February Revolution of 1917, which began on March 8th, which was February 23rd in the old-style calendar, in Petrograd, and marked the end of over 300 years of Romanov rule. This spontaneous uprising, fueled by years of revolutionary thought, lasted about 8 days. And just for reference, that is why this episode is only just over 10 minutes long, and resulted in the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. By 1917, the majority of Petersburgers had lost faith in the Tsarist regime due to unrestrained government corruption and Nicholas II's frequent disregard for the Imperial Duma. Severe food shortages plagued Petrograd, with bread rationed to just £1, which was 400 grams per person per day. World War I had exhausted Russia, with over 2 million soldiers killed, 5 million wounded, and 2.5 million taken prisoner. The war drained resources from cities, with 50% of locomotives or trains diverted to the war effort, and food production falling by 30% between 1914 and 1917. Strikes were on the rise. 1,542 strikes involving 1.1 million workers occurred in 1916 alone. Tsar Nicholas's resistance to political change and perceived incompetence in handling the war further eroded his authority. As with everything, there is a spark, and the spark for this revolution happened on International Women's Day, March the 8th, which in the old-style calendar was February 23rd. On March the 8th, women textile workers from Petrograd's Vyborg district initiated protests. Approximately 128,000 workers from 50 factories went on strike, demanding, and this was their slogan, bread and peace. By midday, it had gotten up to 50,000, joined by an estimated 10,000 students. Women played a crucial role in convincing male workers to join, swelling the numbers to over 200,000 by evening. Protesters called for an end to World War I, with shouts of "down with the war" and the overthrow of autocracy, because the entire shout was "down with the war" and "down with the Tsar." And this led to what became known as 5 days that shook the world. Day 1 was February 23rd, or what's now March 8th. International Women's Day marked the beginning of the uprising, with textile workers initiating a mass strike of around 100,000 demonstrators, as I've already said. Day 2, which is February 24th or March 9th, the strike broadened to around 200,000 workers, merging with demonstrations and bringing the revolutionary mass face to face with troops. On Day 3, the government ordered troops to take action with firearms, but soldiers were beginning to waver and masses continued to pour into the streets. By Day 4, workers from all suburbs concentrated in the city centre were met by police cordons and horse patrols, with troops given strict orders to shoot anyone. Day 5, mutiny spread amongst the troops, with revolutionaries seizing key locations across Petrograd and freeing political prisoners. So to sum it all up, they went on strike, the royalty said shoot them, the army felt sorry for them, and with those mutinies, the revolutionaries took advantage and started seizing key locations. The main people behind this were, as I've said, workers and soldiers. Workers led the opposition to the old order, creating a unique form of democratic self-organisation. They started to form committees and councils known as Soviets to fight their bosses and the Tsarist regime. The Soviets became an alternative government, functioning as organs of self-government and working-class power. By February 27th, which would today be called March 12th, most of the Petrograd's garrison of 160,000 troops had sided with the revolutionaries. And the most important of these siding with the revolutionaries, also known as mutinies, was the mutiny of the Reserve Guard, with the Pavlovsky Regiment being among the first to break ranks and therefore have become infamous for this action. On February 26, 1917, which would now be called March 11th, Tsar Nicholas ordered the Duma to dissolve, but many members continued to meet informally. The next day, the Duma leaders formed a provisional committee to assume control amid growing chaos. Key figures in this included Mikhail Rozhenko, who was the Duma president, and Alexander Kerensky, who I mentioned in the last episode, who became the Trudovik leader, or the leader of the party that was most influential. The committee negotiated with revolutionary leaders and issued decrees to prevent loyalist troops from reaching Petrograd. On February 28th, or what would now be called March 13th, the committee ordered the arrest of all ex-ministers and senior officials, effectively dissolving the Council of Ministers, which had power over the Duma when it was under the rule of the Tsar. Speaking of the Tsar, Tsar Nicholas II was at this time at Stavka, which was the military headquarters in a place called Mogilev, when unrest began, initially dismissing reports as exaggerated, which his wife also did later on, which I'll get to, and that's never a good move. However, when he realised what was going on, in reality, he attempted to return to Petrograd by train, but was stopped at Pskov due to railway disruptions caused by revolutionaries, which is very funny or ironic, because he, throughout his entire reign, had been a big proponent of the power of the railways. Military leaders, including General Nikolai Ruzhsky and General Mikhail Alexeyev, advised Nicholas to abdicate, and on March the 15th, or what was then March the 2nd, 1917, at 3 p.m, Nicholas signed the abdication manifesto and gave over his rule to the revolutionaries. He initially abdicated in favour of his son Alexei, but changed his mind due to Alexei having a condition known as haemophilia, which made him bleed internally very easily. He then offered it to Grand Duke Michael, who refused to accept the throne on March the 16th, which in the old style calendar would have been March the 3rd, and this effectively ended Romanov rule. The Provisional Government was formed on March the 15th, or in the Russian calendar at the time, March the 2nd, under Prince Georgy Lvov. It introduced reforms including amnesty for political prisoners and freedom of speech. However, they controversially decided to continue Russia's involvement in World War I. And this was controversial because, at the time, practically all of the population of the country, along with most of the armed forces, were against World War I and did not think that Russia should be involved in any shape or form. The Provisional Government had to share power with the Petrograd Soviet, creating a situation of dual power. And dual power is what I will discuss in my next episode, but to conclude this episode, the February Revolution marked a historic turning point, ending centuries of autocratic rule in Russia. It was sparked by widespread discontent over food shortages, war losses and political repression. The revolution saw workers and soldiers unite in a spontaneous uprising that toppled the monarchy in just 8 days, and the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II and the establishment of the Provisional Government marked the beginning of a new era. In our next episode, we'll explore the complex period following the February Revolution known as the era of dual power. We'll examine how the Provisional Government and the Petrograd Soviet competed for authority. This power struggle created opportunities for more radical elements, particularly the Bolsheviks under Vladimir Lenin's leadership. We'll see how Lenin's return to Russia and his April theses has set the stage for the Bolsheviks' rise to prominence, ultimately leading to their October Revolution later that year.